Welcome to Big Blend Radio's Parks and Travel podcast, covering parks, public lands, and historic landmarks across America and around the world. Hey, everybody, as part of the National Park Service anniversary, which is August 25th, today we are talking about New Mexico parks. We have an interview with travel writer Debbie Stone airing on the same podcast today, where she talks about Carlsbad Caverns National Park in New Mexico. We know them for it's a live cave with stalagmites and stalactites, and we all just want to say that. So say it, stalagmites and stalactites. It's cool. It's living. We know rocks are really living, right? And
Yeah, they are.
bats, let's talk about the bats. And it's a really cool location because from there you can get to White Sands National Park really closely, Guadalupe National Park on the border of Texas. Well, it's in Texas, that park. But there's a lot of national parks. There's the Gila Cliff Dwellings National Monument, and then you can go up into northern New Mexico, and we're going to talk about that today with Chaco Canyon, or you can say Chaco Cultural National Historical Park, and Aztec Ruins. There's Bandelier. There's a lot of parks in New Mexico, and that is our focus today. And we have two special guests who were on the show August 17th. Victoria Chick, who is an amazing contemporary figurative artist. She's a collector of early 19th and 20th century print collectors, and she is also behind creating this amazing New Mexico fine art museum. It's called the Southwest Regional Museum of Art and Art Center, and that is based in Silver City. They don't have a building yet, but they're working towards it. So welcome back, Victoria. How are you?
Thank you, Lisa. I'm doing very well today. Happy to be here talking about New Mexico parks and national monuments.
I know it's exciting. We've got Tanya Tega. Now, Tanya and you, both of you, we always want to have the two of you on shows. And I encourage everyone, there's a link in the episode notes going back to the conversation between Tanya and Victoria talking about the history of artists in parks, the then and now, where Tanya talks about the National Parks Arts Foundation, which she is a founder of. She's also an incredible photographer. And we talk about the then and now, talk about a wonderful digital publication that is out now as a retrospective of the National Parks Arts Foundation's artists in residence that are in parks across the country, from Dry Tortugas National Park on Loggerhead Key in Florida, all the way to Hawaii Volcanoes National Park. And then, of course, there are the ones in New Mexico as well. And so welcome back, Tanya. How are you?
Thank you. It's good to hear everybody. I'm pretty good. This is going to be a great show.
Now, listen, NPAF, the National Parks Arts Foundation, when we talk about New Mexico parks, it's kind of the birthing of it comes from there, right? Just a little bit, because I think you kind of lived out there, did a lot of growing up. I don't know how grown up you are. I didn't mean it that way. But you spent some time out in New Mexico parks growing up, I should say. Let me put it correctly.
Yes, I did. My grandparents lived out there near Chaco, so some of my earliest memories are of Chaco. So when in the very, very early stages of the National Parks Arts Foundation Artist in Residence program, before NPAF even existed, I was the artist in residence at Chaco. So when I was there, I just, it was kind of an interesting thing. I'd already been working with the parks, and I thought, well, the parks have, this needs to really happen. So it was when I was there as an artist, that's when NPAF started. It just kind of occurred to me that we need to have this more available to the public. So that's where I dreamed it.
Chaco is special because of the people's history, and it's kind of these ruins are like these perfect circles, right? Which is incredible. And even Aztec Ruins, which is north of Chaco. And what's amazing, and when you think about northern New Mexico, there's Bandelier, where there are like kivas and cliff dwellings too. So there's all these different kind of dwellings, right? And then we're going to talk about Gila Cliff Dwellings National Monument with Victoria, these different style of dwellings, but Chaco wasn't really dwellings, right? These were like ceremonial spaces that go with earth, wind, and fire. It goes with the solstice, right? It's different.
Yes, it does. There are dwellings there, or what they think, and the archaeologists have said that some are dwellings. They have the kivas also, and also it is thought to be a place of commerce too. So the Puebloan culture around there, this was I think we all think and don't know for sure that this is just the place of commerce. They've found chocolate there. They've found parrot feathers. They have found things that are from, very, very far away. And in fact, recently, one of our artists, for lack of a better term, found some shark's teeth.
Oh, was that Carissa?
In
the poet?
stone.
Wow. In stone. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. It's ancient. See, I think aliens have to do with out there too. Like I think this is like otherworldly, but then people will get mad at me. So that's okay. But that's amazing history. So, the history too goes into pottery. And Victoria, you've talked about that on shows about petroglyphs, pottery, the indigenous peoples' history that we can still find in certain places, but Gila cliff dwellings is pretty different in that you can actually go into the dwellings. And I think it's one of the few places where you can actually go in, right? At the Gila Cliff Dwellings,
Well,
which is just outside Silver City.
yes. Well, it is, and that is a neat thing about it. But unfortunately, the reason we can go into it is because it's pretty much ruined archaeologically because it got really messed with during by cowboys and in the 1920s, well, even earlier than that. By people just discovering it and taking pot shots at things that they should have taken pot shots at. So there was not the right respect for it initially, and so that's too bad. But it is really neat to be able to go into it. And there's a few things that have been found, like you could still see corn cobs or maize cobs or cobs. They have lasted for all this time. So and it's neat seeing the areas where the fire was and so forth that are still recognizable. The history of it is, we think of Pueblo Indians, and when you're talking about some of these other places that people have lived, the cliff dwellings seem to be used by people who were nomadic. They were not Pueblo dwellers, or maybe they had been in the past. Who knows? But they came to use the caves and they blocked the entrances partially with adobe, rocks. They used I think they used a pumice form of or mud form of keeping the rocks together, and that part of it is good, is still in really good shape, and so when we're talking about a time, it's probably been like the late 1200s or maybe into the 1300s. So it was really before the Pueblo dwellers or the Apaches. So we've got all kinds of Indians around here, but not everybody left a trace, like the Gila cliff dwellings. And then, of course, after that, there were pit dwellings, and they're right near the Gila cliff dwellings. Behind the visitor center, there's another hill. You don't always get to go up there, but there are pit dwellings there, and those are very interesting.
Mm-hmm. And then the pottery shards and everything we find. Like I know that at the museum that you have, the University Museum in Silver City, you can see some of the Mogollon pottery,
right.
And that is fascinating. And your whole area which ties into parts of northern Arizona. I think like when we went to Tonto National Monument, that was another cliff dwelling that was incredible to see. And what blew my mind is how they were growing crops up at the very
Hmm.
top and going up and down, going getting water from the bottom. I mean,
Right.
the people were just incredible what they did. Nancy, though, on the other hand, when she gets in the cliff dwellings, she just watches the birds, right? Nancy, you are like all into the cliff birds that were
Well,
hanging
no,
out.
if you sit up there and you watch them, then they come and sit and watch you, and you're like, oh, hello,
Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
because they stare
If you're
at you
quiet, if
like,
you're quiet, yeah, yeah,
yeah, they stare at you like, are you going to move? You look too big to kill, you know. But well, because they're mostly predators and out
Of
there,
insects. Yeah.
and it's amazing.
Well,
I
and we
think
saw a lot of
one of the
vultures.
neatest things, yeah, yes, and the neatest thing I think about going to the cliff dwellings, besides the cliff dwellings, is the walk to get to them, because it
Hmm.
goes up this wonderful path that there's a stream of spring-fed stream alongside it, and there's all kinds of animals in there. And
Mhm.
the riparian conditions, are just perfect for all kinds of critters.
I
Yeah.
remember, yeah,
And
I
I
think
like
when
to,
we went, we saw an oriole even when we were there.
Yeah, that
It
yeah,
was
was
yeah,
like we went with you and it was like March, April, and the Gila River, we crossed over the Gila because isn't that the Trail of Mountain Spirits that we went on from Silver City? And then
yes,
um
yes,
we went to the cliff dwellings and the Gila River looks so beautiful going
yes.
out through
It
there.
is beautiful.
Mm. I wanted to go back to Tanya. Have you been to the Gila cliff dwellings?
I have, and
mm,
it is absolutely amazing. I mean, even the I think it is the Gila River, that valley there. It's lush. There's so many like oasis
Hmm.
areas on the river itself, and the cliff dwellings are amazing.
Yeah.
Have you been able to? I mean, years ago we were able to spend the night in Bandelier, which one of my uncles was managing when I was really young. Years ago, were you able to stay in the cliff dwellings there? I don't think it's allowed any longer,
I
Mm-mm,
but
don't think so.
mm-mm. I know
Mm-mm.
that
Well,
they had
here
there.
you can't. No, no,
I,
you can they monitor. I mean, they've got some wonderful guides. I mean, the guides are a lot of volunteers. There are park rangers in the area also, but you don't want to stay there overnight. And
wonderful.
they kind of clock people in and out. You don't know you're being
Oh yeah.
clocked around, but so it's not like you're being regulated severely or anything. But they have to make sure that everybody that's gone in comes out.
mm.
Yeah,
Well,
but
Oh,
you could get lost.
definitely.
yeah, Bandelier is kind of restrictive too now.
Hmm.
Bandelier, I remember you
It
could go
is.
in early in the morning or you have to take a shuttle in from this time to that time. And it was, I mean, Bandelier was a trip. I loved it because it also had that spring. And so I think the indigenous people definitely knew what was going on with the land. And they showed how they did waffle gardens and, even filtered their water. And I mean, we saw deer and we saw so much wildlife if you
Mm.
just slowed down and took the hikes.
It's
But it was
beautiful.
amazing. They were so
Yeah.
smart. I mean, it was just that whole canyon is crazy. And Chaco's amazing. And all the ravens. Can we just talk about the ravens of New Mexico? What is it with New Mexico? I know the
There's
Roadrunner is like the thing, but I just think your state is like so full of ravens and crows. It's like,
Hmm.
yeah, yeah, crow medicine. Here we go. But it is. They're amazing there. But everyone, New Mexico has so many national park units, and so much history and natural beauty. And White Sands, we can't forget White Sands as being one of the newest national parks, right? Being elevated from a monument to a national park. And we drove by it the other night. Tanya, while we were texting, we drove right by it. And I'm like, wait, there's white sand over there. We got to pull over. But that's also a little restrictive. So always good to go to nps.gov first before you go because some parks are open, some parks are not open, depending on when you arrive. Right, Nancy? We've learned our lesson.
Oh,
Remember
yeah.
sleeping outside Petrified Forest National Park?
Oh, that was cool, though.
Yeah, because we woke up and there was a dinosaur in our face.
I know.
And
We didn't
the
know there
best
was a
sunrise.
dinosaur hanging over us. It's so cool.
It was
Yeah.
so much fun. The best stars in the sky at night too. So we enjoyed our car camping experience. Got there like at 2 in the morning,
Well,
3 in the morning, thinking, oh, we could just go get a campsite. Maybe
Yeah,
not.
right.
So yeah, just be aware. So thank you so much, ladies, for joining us on this New Mexico edition of our National Park Anniversary podcast. Everyone, victoriachick.com is the website for Victoria. Also, go to nationalparksartsfoundation.org to learn more about their national parks artist in residence opportunities. And also, I want to give a shout out to the museum that Victoria and all the volunteers she works with are working on to put together for Silver City, New Mexico. Go to southwest-art-museum.org. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So keeping in with our National Park Service spotlight today, we've got Debbie Stone, who is on our shows every fourth Tuesday talking about her global adventures, but she loves national parks, not just around the world, from Africa to Samoa, American Samoa, but she loves to travel the United States as well. And today she's giving a spotlight and a shout out to Carlsbad Caverns National Park in New Mexico. And this story, she has an article about it, is linked in the episode notes and is up on nationalparktraveling.com. And if you just type in Carlsbad Caverns, you'll find it on that site. So, Debbie, how are you doing? Fire Monkey, as we do call her, Fire Monkey.
I'm doing great and excited to talk a bit about a very, very, very cool national park that is. I love caves, so it's like one of my favorites. I think it's one of the top caverns in the country, and I've been to a number of them, and this one really stands out to me.
And it's a little different than going to Mammoth Park, which you've done as well. These are two kind of different types of caves in a way, right?
Definitely. I find that Carlsbad has just some really more dazzling formations, and the Great Room, which is, this big room that you enter into, is just like jaw-dropping kind of thing. And to me, it just has so much more to be amazed at. So I consider it a real gem of New Mexico, and it is a heritage site as well as a national park. And it was everyone calls it the Grand Canyon with a roof over it, because that's what actor Will Rogers once called it. So, it's just an amazing place.
And so this is a living cave, because I know I've been to some caves like Coronado National Monument in southern Arizona in the southeast part. That was a dead cave, and it was still trippy going in there. I went in, and you basically, you're almost crawling through in the sand with a park ranger going, I hope there's not a snake in here. That might be the living thing that I crawl over. So this is a different thing, because these formations are still forming. So it's like a living rock in a way, isn't it, to see that?
Exactly. And it also serves as a home for bats. So like a number of caves do, but I think it's like May through October when these bats, they're the Mexican free-tailed, I think it's called. But anyway, they migrate and take up residence there. And so in the evenings, visitors will sit at the amphitheater that's right outside of the historic entrance, and they watch the bats leave the cave and then return. It's very, very, very cool. I've seen those kinds of things at other caves, and it's just, you're so impressed by by how this all works and how they come in and come out and all that kind of stuff.
And I think that's Carlsbad Caverns. That's the first thing people think about are the bats. I think more than anything, whenever you hear about the Carlsbad, you think of bats. And I think it's one of the top bat places we have in our country to see them and to experience them. The last time we saw bats at that magnitude was in Lake Havasu on a gondola ride with the gondola dude singing in German and Japanese opera. Yeah. And we went under the bridge, the Lake Havasu Bridge, which is from England. Like truly, we went under the London Bridge, it is from London, and we went under there, and the bats flew out, and Nancy and I looking at each other, going, "What the heck is this, man? You can't make this stuff up." I mean, really. And this
Wow.
guy's singing opera in these different languages. We had the giggles, right? That was crazy, but it was. But bats are so beneficial. So being able to experience that has to be like at the top of the list for park travelers to go and witness these bats. And there's quite
Oh,
a few
yeah.
other species too that hang out, but these are the ones that are pretty the epic one that people really want to go see.
Absolutely, absolutely. And when you can to explore the cave, you can take a guided tour with a ranger. Other than that, you can do a self-guided kind of route where you can view some of the formations in the big room on your own. You can take an elevator down 750 feet to the big room, or you can go in by the historical entrance, which I said, which involves going kind of on a steep path all the way down to the big room. But then you can also take the elevator back up if you don't want to climb all the way back up again. But if you take a guided tour, once again, I'm a fan of guided tours. You'll get so much more information. You'll get a lot of stories about, who found the cave, what happened, how did it become, a national monument, and then how did it become, a national park. And then, the rangers they turn off all the artificial light sources, and you're all of a sudden in complete darkness. And you think about the early explorers who are using lanterns or other poor light sources to climb through and explore, and you're thankful that there's light. So yeah, it's to me as I said, I'm a proponent of guided tours. So if you really want to learn something more than just seeing it, I suggest a tour.
Yeah, exactly. Especially, the stalagmites, the stalactites. I mean, that to me is exciting right there.
Yes.
I mean, that's just
Yes.
like that's like a palace. It's like a rock palace,
Exactly.
So, and you got the history of it too. That's the other thing of how people found this cave. I remember, was it New Zealand when you had all the glowworms? Do you went in that
Yes.
cave?
Yes.
Holy
Yes.
cow, that's an epic story right there. I mean,
Yeah.
and it was also about them protecting that cave. So it's a lot of
Exactly.
protection around it. And I think that's why it's a national park. Am I right in this? Because I did just actually drive through there in that area. White Sands National Park, one of our newest national parks, but was a monument turned into a park, and Guadalupe Mountains National Park, which is the Texas side. This is all kind of, well, Carlsbad Caverns is kind of central-ish. But wouldn't you say like you could do those three parks on one road trip?
Oh, definitely. Definitely.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. You could definitely, I think, manage, in a number of days, you could see all three.
Yeah.
And I think you would feel like you got to see very unique places. It's to me, each one of those White Sands is so unique. Carlsbad is unique. Guadalupe Mountains is, it's all, different quote unquote landscape or terrain, so it's fascinating. But I love all the different formations in the cave, and not only the stalactites and the stalagmites, but the popcorn, the cave pearls. They call them draperies or the soda straws.
Yeah.
And I think they're fascinating, and I love the names that they've been given. And some of them look like people or animals or buildings, and so it's just kind of a mind blowing thing when you go through these caverns. I think it's wonderful. Also, a good thing for people to know is you can see these caverns all year round, because inside it's about 56 degrees year round. So especially in the summer when it's very, very hot in Carlsbad, it's natural air conditioning. And in the winter, it's often much warmer inside the cave than it is outside. So, so it's cool. So it is good. Also, the park's entrance fee is good for 3 days, which is wonderful. So if you're hanging out in Carlsbad or the area and you want to come back to the cave, you can, which I think is really, really nice.
Mm. And everyone, again, try to get the year-round pass if you can, or the seniors pass if you qualify for that. There's military passes that are free. There's a fourth grader program. There's so many programs for national parks. They're probably one of the most cost-effective destination spots you can go to in the country. And Guadalupe Mountains, you said you've done that, right? Is that like,
Yes.
when I always think of Guadalupe, everything I've read about it, and it sounds to me like that's Texas, like how we have Great Basin in Nevada, that those two parks are kind of underrated, yet like similar in that they're four seasons. They're just completely different than what people would think, because of the desert and all of that, that they are these just four season gems. Wouldn't you say that they're kind of comparable?
Yes. You can go to them all year round, I think, and also, see them at different times of the year. I think that's what's interesting too, is to go back to a park at a different season, and it's like, oh, it's like an entirely new place again for you,
Mm-hmm. And in the caves, stalagmites may have grown a little bit more, or the popcorn, and that's how we got popcorn ceilings in the 80s. I'm just kidding. I have no clue. Everyone, again, Debbie's article is up on nationalparktraveling.com. Just type in Carlsbad Caverns. The link is in the episode notes. Thank you so much, Debbie.
Sure. Thank you.
Thanks for joining us here on Big Blend Radio's Parks and Travel podcast. Visit nationalparktraveling.com to plan your next park adventure and to see our Parks and Travel digital magazine. You can keep up with our shows at bigblendradio.com.